All right.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another fun-filled episode of Psychic Zen 333. I am here with my co-host Nancy Barr. Everybody say hi to Nancy. Nancy, say hi to everybody.
Hi, everybody.
How are we doing tonight, everyone? We hope that you are doing quite well. We are very excited to deliver another episode. So tonight is an interesting one, dealing with people who are crossing over, whether it's a loved one or a stranger. So what could we do for those who are crossing over to be of help and service to them, if anything? And what can we do for ourselves and our loved ones? How can we put it in perspective and come into a place of acceptance and ease and out of suffering? And that's exactly what Nancy and I are going to be speaking about tonight. Nancy, would you like to start?
Well, a lot of, it seems to me that there's quite a few people passing. At least there's a lot of people passing where I'm at or around me or somewhat. And, I think my teacher in the past has mentioned it very clearly. If I'm not here, I'm somewhere else. If I'm not here, I'm somewhere else. If I'm not here, I am somewhere else. And to understand that this is a school, it's an opportunity, it's a journey, and that when that person has reached a place where it's their time, they've done what they wanted to do here, and so on, and it's time for them to go to the someplace else, which is, it's love, it's peace, it's harmony, it's a whole different situation than what a lot of things we've been taught. So to start out is that, yes, there are people leaving. Yes, they're going to go somewhere else. Yes, are they in close proximity to us, and after they leave, a good portion of the time, yes, they are. So anyway, why don't you start with the next question, because it's just a time where people are moving to where they came from before they were born.
Right. I agree with that. With this subject, I felt like there was so many questions, and we actually had a fair amount of people who view our show that recently had someone cross over, which I got a lot of feedback this week after we decided that this was going to be our subject. And it wasn't lost on me, like Nancy and I were talking about, like, we learned a while ago, or I learned from her, how the student can be teaching something, or I'm sorry, the student or the teacher could learn something and then an hour later be teaching it to someone else, because we got the lesson and then we give it right away in the perfect moment. I feel like dealing with a loved one crossing over it brings up the importance for perception to an all-time high. It's important in our day-to-day life, but I think it is particularly important when we have a loved one that has crossed over, because we need that perspective to navigate what we perceive the situation to be. So I was thinking about this this week when I knew this was going to be our subject, and said, I don't really like the terminology I lost them, because as Nancy just said, if they're not here, they're somewhere else. So it's like losing, I think, tells the brain that something is gone from you. And I understand that may be why we use that term, but I don't really feel like the individuals that have crossed over that I love are gone from my life. And that's why I think the term doesn't apply. So my first question to you, Nancy, is what do you think about that terminology?
Well, I agree with you. I feel that, again, we have been taught, in belief systems are different than knowing. And there's very little actually that's been taught on this subject. There's people have their own experience and so forth, which is important, but there's not a whole lot taught to understand how to deal with things, how to recognize whatever guilt that might have been there, or past things that were not resolved. And there's so many different pieces. I'm interested in what the people had as far as questions about the passing? How did they feel? What do they want to know? How to make it easier? Do they want to know what the person who's passing goes through? I mean, there's so many different pieces to this. So
I know that actually that's every question that you just asked was a question that's here. So yes.
Well,
So
we have plenty of experience with this.
yeah. What happens after, and it just blanked out of my mind. What happens after, and how do we deal with it? And then I believe too, like as I'm thinking about these questions, my mom's experience, or me having you to help me with my mom's experience, is coming to the forefront, because I didn't know that my mom valued Jesus in the way that she did as she was crossing over. I had an intuitive feeling, overwhelming, to go and pray with her the day before she crossed over. And I called you on the way and said, I just feel like I have to go pray with her. And she's waiting, but I don't know who she's waiting for. And you said, she's waiting for Jesus. She's a very smart soul, and she wants Jesus to grab her by the hand and walk her home. And I was like, wow, okay.
Are you sure I said that?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But it worked, because the day, like, I went to the hospital, I prayed with her, and then she crossed over that next morning after we went and prayed with her. So it was perfect, and it was very serene. And loved ones go out in all different ways, but that was a nice way to experience that, a hard thing, I guess, is the way I'm coming from that.
It's not just whatever someone believes, and many people have different beliefs. There's a whole bunch of different belief systems, but usually a lot of times people will experience whatever their belief system is.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever that is, no matter what it is, it's the person's right to have their own belief system. But whatever that is, then it's important that they may experience it, and it's important to understand that the person needs the more comfortable the person is. Like if someone's passing, then one of the best things, in my opinion, one of the best things you can do is tell them what a great person they were. Or tell them, if you don't feel that, tell them that they've done, look for something that they've done really well, and so on. The better they feel in their passing, the better they are at peace on the passing side of it, the better it is for them to get to wherever they're going. So I think it's really important. But so many people also pass, and they have tragic, maybe they've overdosed on drugs. It could be that, they've had some kind of crime pulled against them, and so on. So not everybody has the same experience. We can talk about the beauty of the experience, but there's also the fear of the experience, and there's also a lot of people that they're shocked. They're in one space for 1 minute, and the next minute they're somewhere else.
Right.
And it could be, people think it's wonderful to fall asleep, go when you're sleeping, but that can also be startling, because you're sleeping and all of a sudden you wake up on another space and place and so on. And so there's a lot more to this than simply saying it's this or it's that. There's a whole bunch of different pieces. That's why I'm asking what are the questions, because people are this is a very, I wouldn't call it private, but it's a very sensitive issue for most of us to go through this. So
I agree. So the question is,
whatever they want questions to, we'll do the best we can to answer it as we know it.
What can we do to not feel pain?
Well, that's to assume you're not supposed to feel pain. Pain is a gift in a way. Pain is a messenger. So if you love someone and all of a sudden they're gone, or are you going through a lot with the person going through an illness and having to to caretake or watch them go through what we would consider suffering, then it can be painful. It's the same. It's painful. I think one of the biggest reasons that the pain is where it is because there's nothing you can do about it. You're totally lost control. I mean, whatever it is, as far as them leaving, you don't have the control over the moment they take their last breath. or they're not taking they're letting go of their last breath. And so it's very hard to, the pain gets less and less, I think, as time goes on. The more clarity I have about that this is something that happens, it's part of life, the more clarity I have about my relationship with the person who's passing and going forth. A lot of people have issues when it comes to the person who is passing and so on. The issues have not been resolved. So that causes pain, because again, sometimes I've suggested, set a table, put food on the table, have a place setting for them, have a glass of wine there, or soda, or whatever they liked, and know that there's probably sitting there at the seat with you when, if you invite them. So because they're not separated from this third degree level only either, at least not at first. So do you have anything, Jennifer, do you have anything to say? Because she's also a medium. No? Okay.
Jennifer is Nancy's niece, and she's here with us tonight.
Jennifer's my niece, and I'm going through this with my sister. She's going through it with her mother, so it's hitting home a little bit here. But how do you get out of pain? Pain is something, I think clarity and understanding brings some relief. I think praying or asking for help. You know me well enough to know that I have no problem asking for help on the things that I need. I don't think we have to be strong. I don't think we have to be without pain. I think we have to be honest about our pain and understand it. Exactly. Jennifer just said, when you're empathetic, you will feel pain. Because it's not a loss, but it's a loss as the life as you know it.
Right.
It's a change of a life, you know it. And it doesn't even have to be that. Both Jennifer and I are both mediums, so we pick up on people on the other side, entities, spirits on the other side, people, whatever you want to call it. And they're still there. I mean, they're still around you. They just vibrated a different vibration.
Right.
So you understand that. You've experienced it. And I don't know. I think making the most out of relationships, making the most out of myself. First, you start with self. Okay. And when you get into yourself and you are, you're working on yourself, you're meditating, you're peaceful, you're comfortable with what you're doing and how you do unto others as you'd want done to you. You take care of what you can take care of. You don't take on belief systems that don't resonate with you anymore. You don't believe on things that you have forgiveness and unconditional love. When you have all these different characteristics that are the fifth dimension that we're in right now in the Aquarian age, then you're going to be able to handle these things a lot better and a lot easier. Okay. I mean, when you think about it, I don't want you to, I shouldn't say think. Be aware that people like in the war zones, people, that they don't lose one person, they may lose their whole family. If you use the word lose, if you're going to use that, and it looks like a loss, I mean, it goes from one extreme to another extreme. And living your life in love versus all this other opportunity of choice is something I think can ease the pain. I think if we understand, how can you understand some of the things that are happening right now? It's not easy.
Right.
People are leaving, disease, cancer, we get what we think, we've talked about this a lot of times. The law of attraction and the law of I get what I think. So with cancer, I'm just using this as an example. A lot of people are passing because of cancer and disease. And cancer, the way things are set up, you have, first you get the disease, you're in shock. You're told what the disease is, and you know what the outcome can be. Doesn't have to be, but could be. And then you have the whole idea. So you're thinking about it. Then everybody's got an opinion what you should or how you should or shouldn't handle it. And then you have that thought. And then you have thoughts. You've got to go take treatment. And in the treatment, you have to think about the disease the whole time you're in treatment. Then you got to take and think about what the side effects are from the disease when you get home. And it's very difficult not to have a whole thought wrapped around the disease and programming it and helping it program. This is the way a lot of, it's not just cancer, it's the way a lot of disease, is that take people's life, because we have, because we don't understand healing. We don't understand balance. We don't understand that those thoughts that we think that are, just, well, I didn't like this person and they did this to me and that person did that and so on. And we believe in the negative so strongly. In healing, if you believe in the disease stronger than you believe in the healing, you're going to get what you think.
Right.
And a lot of people are asking for that. I think, I find it interesting with the virus, that we just went through. And it took out, I have clients, I have people on islands all over the place and everywhere. And it hit every space, every country, every island, every situation. It took out people and their economy and their lives, and changed their lives with one virus that just got programmed. But I personally have my own opinion about it, but it just got programmed in. And it hit everybody within a couple months.
Yeah.
So how does that happen? I mean, a lot of people passed. I mean, one life is, there's a lot of feeling that one life is more important than another life. In other words, certain people, if somebody were very famous and they pass and everybody mourns and everybody gets really upset about it. And yet the person next door that was courageous and took on their plight of disease, or took on doing their best, or helping the person to heal, or being a doctor, a nurse, or whatever, and if they have a problem and go, then it's not as important. Every single life is important. Every single breath is important. And everything I do in my breath is important. And I have no guarantee how long that breath is going to last. One breath comes in at birth, the last one goes out. And so what do I want to sit here and think about that all the time? No, I don't.
No.
Do I want to be able to handle it, which is what your group are asking? How do I handle this?
Right.
Well, I'm only going to be able to handle it as well as I think about myself. I'm only going to be as clear. I can only handle it as well as the clarity. I can only handle it as how much do I believe in other people's belief systems and what I should or shouldn't have done and could have done or would have done. And there's a big difference. We've talked about this before. There's a big, big difference between belief systems and knowing.
Right.
Big difference. So my belief system is, that person, they were doing criminal things. They deserved it. Nobody, it's not about deserving to die or to leave or to be transported out of here. It has nothing to do with that. What did I learn while I was here? How did I accomplish what I needed to accomplish while I was here? And a lot of people are getting ready. We have a very important person to us right now who says they're ready to go. And I think one of my friends recently said, I'm ready to go. They have an understanding that there's life after this, and that what they did and accomplished was an incredible thing. I mean, both of them accomplished huge amounts of wonderful things. And they're just leaving. It's like going on a vacation. You're on a vacation and then you leave and you go somewhere else.
That when they feel like they're ready to go, is that like an inner soul knowing of I'm comfortable where I'm going?
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes the person is conscious. Again, the latter, the conscious, the different dimensions have to do with different understanding, and what understanding and consciousness do I have. The more conscious the person is, the more understanding you are. A lot of people don't want to leave someone because they have children, or there's young people, and they worry about them. They don't want to, they feel bad that they're leaving them, and so on. So,
Right.
It gets very complicated. This is a very hard subject to answer some of the questions on, because there's so many variations to what we're talking about. And a lot of people, there's a lot of people that hang on, and they're just heartbroken. There could be someone that they were married to, it could be the mother or the father, it could be the brother, the sister. There's guilt that they're surviving. People have the guilt that they're still here, and the other people are leaving. And it's a very complex situation.
Yeah.
And the healthier I am mentally, the healthier I am feeling. Being healthy helps, just plain healthy. But the healthier I am in my attitudes and my knowledge and my understanding, and if I told you to go, go and help your mother through the passing, and if I mentioned someone, I could mention many that can help people through this time period. Nurses do it. There's ministers that do it. There's all kinds of people. There's people that are mediums like we are that do it. There's that help, but it is about going to a higher level of consciousness. It is about returning home, if you want to call it that. And then you and I both know, because we were doing this work before, that sometimes people get stuck.
Right.
On the past, and they don't move on to this higher level as they could, because for one reason or another, maybe it was a shock, and they're confused and so on. Because it's not that different. It's at the lower levels of this plane of the fourth and fifth dimension. The fourth dimension isn't that much different than where we are in the third dimension. So there's a transition time period where it takes a certain amount of time for the transition to take place, or somebody gets lucky enough, they'll just be met. The biggest thing about having a teacher, having a spiritual space, a very strong one, is that you get the help. As soon as you pass, you can be helped and guided to wherever you're going to go. And if I'm confused, and if I'm being drug addicted, or this different things that could happen, fearful, whatever, that can slow down the process.
Right.
And so you want to, if you're going to leave, you want to be able to be in the higher level possible in your understanding, in peace. And that comes from meditation. I mean, you can meditate and get into that space before. You don't have to die to get in that space. And you don't have to leave to have heaven on earth,
right,
or to be in heaven. It's a matter of consciousness, and it's a matter of an understanding. And how do we let go of people? I don't know. People do it in divorce. People do it in all kinds of different situations. They do it in war. You're going off to war, and you never know if the person's coming back. I mean, this world of the third dimension is very difficult sometimes to keep that understanding, that focus. So it's why I say it's difficult, but there's a choice to be made. And if you make the choice that you're going to be at peace and harmony, you're going to understand, you're going to be open-minded when that person comes to visit you, and they're turning on the lights on and off, and they're trying to get your attention, or whatever the case might be. If you have some understanding, if you have understanding that the person who's passing will probably be seeing people on the other side and talking to them and mentioning them and saying they're talking to them and experiencing them, and they're going through that. If you understand that the person sitting there not knowing they're out of body, or they're sleeping, have a good portion, they're in a coma state for a while, and they're sleeping, and they're traveling while they're doing it. They're not here in the physical body. Their body is astral traveling, and they're in different places. They come back into this body again, and then they don't know where they are. How did I get here? Where did I go? How am I doing this and that? When they're in the physical plane, and so on. So, I mean, it's not an easy subject, Teresa. This is not, it's an important very important subject, but it's not easy to get into all the different details to it.
Absolutely. And I think, from my experience, I had you for every death that I have experienced -1. So as I lost individuals, well, not lost, but as individuals in my,
it's a habit.
We say it. As individuals in my life crossed over, I had you to help me process each one of those passings in whatever capacity that I felt something towards it. And knowing that we are influencing individuals in a positive way, and it's not spoken about so openly, because it is a sensitive subject. It is a private subject. Everybody has their own feelings, or, whatever way that they want to perceive it. But, something really important for myself is that, like, when my mother crossed over, about a year after, I would have these random points. I'd go in the grocery store, I'd see something, I'd cry, have to leave the grocery store because I would think about her. I was like, I don't want to be the person that has this emotional kind of big thing, for years and years to go. So as I'm grieving, or as I'm having this spontaneous big emotion, what is it that I'm feeling? And I sat down and I peeled the layers of it like an onion, and I went through, okay, yes, I have grieving. Okay, yes, I feel loss. Okay, yes, I feel like, part of my foundation in this life moved. But when I really peeled it down, I said, nobody loves me like my mom. No one's collecting my teeth. No one's collecting swatches of my hair, or keeping artwork from when I was 3, or having all these mementos of my life. My mom is my biggest fan, and there is no replacing that individual. And that's, to me, a part of the experience. And I had the aha moment that part of it was, no one is ever going to love me the way that she did, or like, I'm going to share that unique bond. There's no replacing her. And then once I had that aha moment, that's what it was for me, I was like, okay, now how can I raise my vibration even higher? Because you're not gone. You didn't leave my life. So when she passed over initially, I thought to myself, I'm not going to grieve because I don't want to bring my energy down lower. I am going to feel everything that I'm supposed to feel, or that I am feeling, but I want to raise my vibration so it's easier for me to connect to her, so that I can connect to her. And I have a better relationship with my mom since she's crossed over than we even had in life, because she's in a place of love and understanding of things that I was talking to her about while she was here in the physical. I have her love, I have her guidance, I have her being present at events, and she's not physically there, but she's there in a different vibrational place. So it gives me great comfort, and I have a lot of ease. And it's kind of interesting to me, too, that we are automated. When someone finds out that somebody you love has crossed over, oh, where's your mom? Tell your mom. Oh, sorry, she's crossed over. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry that you lost that person. I didn't lose her. She's right here. And she wants me to tell you. And that is, I think that's an interesting component of it all.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do think we are part of God. When you said she's not God, but I know you didn't mean it that way.
Oh, not gone. Not gone.
What you're saying is she's not your authority of the way you feel and think, and no one is. There should be you and your high self, right?
Well, I said not gone. Gone, not God.
Right. I just want to make sure we got that.
Got it.
The love is unconditional love, but love is eventually. Now, this is not present a lot in our everyday life right now, but eventually, hopefully, we're going to get more and more there. You're going to find that it was interesting the way you described your love between you and your mother and so on. And there's a lot of people that don't have that experience with their mother, which if they did, then there may be someone else that they feel the same way about. It may be something that someone has the opportunity to know. Then there's people that don't feel like they have anyone that does that.
Right.
So we've got a lot of lessons to learn in this lifetime, but eventually you're going to find that you love everyone. Everyone, love is love, and everyone is loved equally. It's just that we show it differently. There's a different expression, but you can love the stranger on the street. You can love the person you first meet. You can love your mother who does that. You can love a lot of people. And I think what the point you've made is really important too, Teresa, and that is we think what we've lost, we're not going to get, love is gone with them, and we'll never have love again, or, the boyfriend or the husband or the wife or the child or whatever. A lot of people, children are supposed to live longer than their parents. Well, that doesn't exactly happen all the time, and
Right.
it doesn't happen a lot anymore.
Right.
So, how do I regain? Well, you have to understand that they came in with a breath that is God, and the last breath they took is going to take them back to wherever the God within them is. And trying to love everybody and only thinking I only have love. If this person leaves, I'm going to be in sorrow and I'm going to live this way the rest of my life. There are people who do that. There are actually people who do that. They are mourning they never get over it. They do not see, that's the end. But they're still here. And you would think that, inside of us, they're not happy, but inside of us, there's this need to be happy. There's this need to be fulfilled. There's a need to feel strongly that I want peace and harmony and well-being. So we all have choices. Every day is a choice. Every day, every situation that happens, be it someone passing or someone, having a criminal act against them or a disease or, anything that might be one of those things, we have a choice. There is a decision to make whether I'm going to take the high road in this and find out and have the understanding that I only celebrate them or I love them and I'm going to be loved and I'm going to show love. I'm going to help other children. I know that when my son passed, I know that I had the privilege and opportunity to help other parents that lost their kids, or not. We use the word loss; it's such a habit.
I know.
But it's the other parents who also went through a similar, or not a similar situation, but a situation. And so, like it goes right back to what you started out saying earlier. Is you learn it one day, and the next day you're teaching it. So it depends. You can't teach something you don't know. You can't teach something you don't know. So it doesn't mean everyone has to lose a loved one to understand it, but it does take some empathy. Like Jennifer was saying, it takes empathy and understanding that, these things hurt. What can I do to help? How can I be supportive? And supportive is not mourning the person and telling them that, oh, you've lost somebody, so buddy, you're never going to have love again. You're never going to get married again. You're never going to have another child again. You're never going to love a child who's, that is still here. These are all choices, life choices. This is a hologram. This is an opportunity. It's a opportunity to go and practice and learn what real love is. So, we're in an illusion. We're in a computer program. So if I take this program really seriously and I'm never going to have another opportunity, then I'm going to get that. I get what I think. Now, luckily for me, and for many of us, we have a high self that tries to get our attention and try to get us to change our choices and make it to a better place. All is not lost by any means. It's just lost again. All is not lost again in that sense. But, we have a choice. And with everything that happens, every single thing that happens, there's two choices. One is to suffer and one is to love. One is to get out of it.
That's right.
So how do I get out of pain in this? I would suggest for people, a lot of people, breathe and go inside to your heart chakra and ask, how do I do this? What's the best way for me to move past this? Or still not love the person, love everything. You don't have to get rid of love of anyone who left. And you don't. Or pain.
Yeah.
Or pain. You don't have to get rid of either one of them. But you need, because what happens, when you were talking about your mother and you would be shopping and so forth, I think there's waves that come in. You seem to be doing okay. 1 minute you're doing all right. You think you got it all settled in something. And then there's a wave I call it a wave. There's a wave that comes in that something reminds you or something. I think that's them saying hello a lot of times. They're coming in and they're trying to make contact. But if not, it comes in waves, and 1 minute you're fine, and then out of the blue you may have a feeling and a hurt and a pain and a missing and so forth. But that's all natural. I mean, that's all things that happen in this birth. It's just things that happen.
One more question here, Nancy, is about light bodies. When we cross over, do we enter into a light body, or are we stepping into our light bodies while we're here on Earth?
You can do both.
Okay.
It's both. I don't know. The reason I call my body a spacesuit myself, this is just something my soul uses to go do things. And I try to take care of my spacesuit, and I don't have any problem of, trying to put makeup on my spacesuit or do whatever I want. But to me, it's something that I use. It's a vehicle that I use, my soul uses to experience things. And, some people come in deliberately in a spacesuit that maybe somebody else might not want, because they have an experience. They want to experience or learn something, or learn unconditional love, or learn not to judge, or whatever the case might be. But the spacesuits are all very interesting, and the light bodies are, again, consciousness, and it surrounds us all the time anyway.
Can you talk
the
about
the physical body? We lay down the physical body, but the astral body and the mental body, the spirit body, the physical body is just one piece. Then you have the etheric body, you have the emotional body, you've got other bodies in addition to that we have, but they're we only many people only recognize the physical body. There's some of us that see all kinds of bodies.
Nancy, how would you describe the light body? What would you just say that it was, or it is rather?
Well, it could be. You're using a term. It could be an etheric body that you're speaking of, where it's got the blueprint of everything. It's right around their body. It's what people call the aura and so on. But a light body is love. It's peace. It's harmony. It's well-being. It's a opportunity to experience bliss,
okay,
and comfort and peace.
Understood. So I remember we were touching on the subject of a light body and saying that once we move into the light bodies, we can deal with things like, radiation, or, things that we could get.
Oh, I know what you're talking about now. I didn't quite understand it.
Yeah.
When you're in a consciousness that doesn't, it vibrates higher than the radiation. It vibrates higher. It's all frequency, and if it vibrates higher, then you can not. There are people that can walk on coals and so forth and not get burnt. When you're in, now I understand what you're talking about. I think. If you have a high enough consciousness, and if your understanding is higher, then you don't have to go through a lot of the things that we just talked about. You're in a higher level of it, and you can have a light body here.
Okay.
That's why people can, a lot of the gurus, a lot of the different people have worked on these kinds of things, and they have superpower. A lot of people think they're superpower. If you were somewhere else other than Earth, it would be normal.
Right. One question here is when it is an intimate, close relationship, father, mother, sibling, partner, child, how do I restart my life? Because the question is coming from my partner has passed away, and I'm trying to figure out how to restart my life without them, but I've been with them since I was young. So how can I just start over?
Well, it may take a little while, because again, it's trying to get in touch with who you are, who the person is. If they associated who they were because of the person that left, then it's harder. If I'm attached to some idea of what it is and so on, which is normal. I mean, that happens a lot. But how do we start over is after a while, some people don't. I mean, there are people that don't.
Right.
But how do you, as someone that realizes that that's exactly the next step is this happens, and the next step is to keep going, and you start another chapter. It's like reading a book, and you start another chapter, and you can start another chapter. You can start any number of chapters. You make a decision. You have to make a decision that you're going to go forward.
Right.
I'm going to go back to when my son passed. I knew that if I took the attitude of mourning or losing it, and another loss there, losing it, then I would not be able to help my other son. I would not be able to function, and I would be wasting the rest of my life, because the person who passes doesn't really want you to do that.
Right.
They have no desire to have you. In fact, the best and one of the best things you can do for anyone passing is to let them go, and to love them, and to send them on like you would to a school, or send them on to the way you would to any celebration.
Right.
So and like I said, they don't always go. Sometimes they're close by, and they just vibrate faster. It's just a different vibration. It's like think of it like a radio station. They're just on a different radio station. But how do you start over? Is you understand that this is your life, and it's important, and you're breathing. The breath is yours. And it's not easy sometimes for people who've been together for a long time and so on, and all of a sudden one leaves. It's not always easy. Sometimes people leave shortly after that because they don't want to miss that person. And everybody's got choices. It's really up to. I would suggest getting help. I would suggest getting into meditation or get help, or go somewhere to get help, and so on, to move through your feelings and your opportunities to change some of those feelings that I'm not going to have a life left after that. If you're still breathing, you still have life.
Yeah.
If you're still here, you still have life. And now, what kind of life do you want? What do you want to do? And you don't, again, what people don't understand is we have control over a lot more than what we understand. I'm not a victim. Victims get victimized. So if you're going to be a victim, you're going to get victimized. If you're a master and you master the situation by dealing with it, getting the feelings out, being honest with your feelings. If you've got pain, feel the pain, and then work through it and understand it, like you did, and so on. That's how you move forward.
Right.
That's one way to move forward. Yes,
and I would just add too that a lot of times when somebody who has been married for a long time and has lost their partner, you're left here to also pass on lessons that they weren't able to share with grandchildren and children. So it's hard, but you also have purpose, and that is joyful, and it honors and it celebrates.
Did you hear that?
It would be nice if you could repeat it again, but we heard most of it, I think.
Okay, you heard most of it. It's absolutely right. I mean, there's something that you finish out with someone. I mean, there's you might have grandchildren, and you continue loving the grandchildren and reminding them of the grandfather, the grandmother, or whatever. And a lot of things, there's goals that they had or people had, and you continue those goals, and you do it in their name, and so on. I did that too. That was another thing I did at the same time, and that was I decided to do for any child I got a chance to, any teenager I got a chance to, I decided to do for them what I would have done for Billy. And, I made it a commitment, and I did. I mean, I went into that mode of, and then I just would dedicate it to him. This is something I would do for you. And so there's so many different ways you can do this, and but the will to do, and if I'm here, then I'm still here.
Right.
If I'm not here, I'm somewhere else.
Well, I think that's the perspective of it too, is that you are an individual, and although you love that individual, that person who's crossed over so much, you have joy things that you love to do. And what I've been able to observe from people that I've worked with, myself firsthand, other individuals, is when you sit there and say, well, you know, I understand that they are not gonna be. I think first the understanding is they're still with me. They're just not in the same body that they came in. So I have a choice now to live this physical experience on my terms. What am I going to do? I want to be in joy. I don't know how many years I have left. I am going to miss them, and I do wish that they were here with me, but I know they don't want me to suffer, and I don't want to suffer. So it's not going to do any justice to them if I suffer, or there's the concept of moving on too quick or taking a long time to move on. I can say, you know, my stepdad that was with my mom, it's been almost a decade since my mom passed. He hasn't been on one date. And he won't even look at another woman because he loves my mom so much, but he misses her like crazy all the time. It's a choice that he's made, because he said, I don't want to be with anyone but your mom. And he talks to my mom. And fun story, my stepdad was not really an individual that he believed in God, and he believed that people crossed over, but he didn't really believe in the whole medium thing where they can talk to you. And this man, since my mom has crossed over, has become quite the believer, because it started out with Christmas lights. My mom loved Christmas, and she passed away December 10th, but she had hung Christmas decorations. So we had these lights around the doorway. So, you know, years and years passed until last year, where, you know, they're not plugged in. The battery is 8-9 years old. They can't possibly work anymore because there's no batteries. But my dad starts talking to my mom, and then the Christmas lights start going off and sing different songs. So for every conversation that he has with her, the Christmas lights keep going. And he calls me one night. He goes, you know, I just want to take back all the times that I made fun of you when you were a kid, because I sit in the living room and I have conversations with Christmas lights. And if anybody saw me, they'd probably think I'm crazy, but this is how your mom and I talk now.
You know, another thing too, I can, maybe doing automatic writing might help sometimes too with people, where you sit down. I think we talked about that before, but when you sit down and you're not deliberately trying to write, but all of a sudden you start getting messages, you get a strong feeling to jot down what that source is bringing to you. So I think automatic writing might help some people get. Sometimes we don't know if did that person really love me? Did that person really care? You know, we start questioning, because in separation, the next thing you have is fear, and then fear, you automatically have, you know, confusion and doubt. So, you know, fear can be like what we talked about. I don't know what I'm going to do. How am I going to live? And you can also add finances to this situation too. I mean, this is a hard subject because it's so varied. You have finances that people were paid, you know, money, and then they're no longer there to help and pay that money. And so sometimes with children, and people have children and so on, and they, you know, they're taking care of the mother now is taking care of the family, or the father is now by himself taking care of the family, or whatever the case might be. So it can change. I mean, it definitely changes lives.
It definitely changes lives. The other thing I was going to ask you, trying to make sure that I remembered it. Restart the person. Yeah. Oh, what I've learned this year, especially since after the car accident, is, and I think I said it to you, I understand now why masters are so quiet. And not to say that they're not social or cheerful or they talk, but I feel like when you develop a certain understanding and you see how so many subjects are interlaced. I mean, we've had so many podcasts since now, but still we cover, well, perception, belief systems, going within. It doesn't matter what subject. It's like universal pieces that are plug and play when you go through different life experiences. What do we do with love? We celebrate it. And what do we do for who we love? We celebrate them, whether they're here in this physical or they've crossed over. You know, you put yourself in your love exists between you and you first, and then you delegate out from there. Do you get what I'm saying? Making sense?
Yeah.
And
Sure.
I think it's so amazing, because I find that, and it seems silly, I think, the older I get, the quieter I am. I don't have as much to talk about. The feelings are so much deeper and more profound, but I have less to say, and less to think about, because I'm like, oh, like, it's so simple now. It's so clear now. This piece makes that, and this connects with this, and like, I don't have to think about it and figure it out anymore, nor do I even want to, especially when I know I can get help figuring it out, and I'll get the aha moment, and the clearer my mind is, the less mental chatter there is, so the easier I'll get my messages. My messages will help me be guided to the next thing that I'm looking for. I'll follow the inspired path to get me from point A to point B. I'm not going to try to figure out the path. And as long as I know that there is a path there, and I'm not in a place of doubt where I think there is no path, and woe's me, and what am I going to do? Like, I'm going to give myself that platform, like, to succeed. And I was laughing with myself in the car. You had mentioned before we started the podcast, how far I had come. And the other day, I'm in the car laughing. I said, my rock bottom is a springboard.
Teresa, you don't see me here, but I'm laughing. I'm sort of laughing, but not laughing. I'm smiling for sure. Remember how I always said you're thinking too much, you're talking too much, and you're doing. I hope you listen to yourself, what you just said, because that means you've achieved it.
Yeah.
You got it. You understand it. You got it. And it brings great joy to me. That's listening to you. I was sitting there smiling. Yes. Because I think half the time I always said to Teresa, "You're overthinking this. You're doing this. You're doing that."
Oh, for sure.
Too much, But you're right. Everything you just said is true. I mean, we do overthink, and we do a lot of these things especially when we're under stress and going through things like that.
And I actually feel like a type of joy. I know it sounds a little weird, but when I have to go through a hard feeling, stress or anger, or, oh my God, what am I going to do here? I actually get like a little excited, because I'm like, it happened to me this week. I'm the liver and experiencer of miracles. And for all these different experiences that I've had in my life so far, what I have the privilege to do, we perceive the natural state of being in union with God as a miracle when we are pinched off from being in the union with God. But when we get ourselves there, where we form that relationship to source and the creative intelligence, we have a trust and a security and an ease that no matter where we find ourselves, we bring that ease with us where we go. And it's like a t-shirt. All the experiences we go through are like clothes that we put on. They're not who we are. They're just places we visit or things we try on and then take off and go put the next thing and experience the next thing. So I know that when I have to deal with something that's stressful or hard or emotional, I have the same tool set that I can open up in the scenario and go, well, if I call on my high self, if I ask the resurrection angels, if I pray for guidance, if I get very quiet, if I listen instead of talk, if I keep my mind still instead of in chatter, then I will be able to get those messages. If I have faith, if I have a knowing or I have trust every day, and when I'm feeling like, oh, this is hard to trust today, or this moment is hard I pray to have the strength to have trust that day. I pray for everything every day. And that is my life now. But it makes my life so great. That's what I have in abundance. And so much love and connections with people. And when I can offer this information to people and their lives change for the better, that's it. I'm doing what I came here to do, and I don't have to try hard, and it doesn't take a lot out of me, and I'm not drained. I feel more love. And that brings me to the awareness of, because my candle is lit, I can light another candle no matter what situation I'm in. It's when my faith or my trust goes out or gets rattled that my candle goes out. But if I just protect my candle, then I'm always going to be okay. And I'm always going to be able to be the liver and experiencer of miracles that inspire somebody else to know that that's possible. And that's what I love.
Yep. I have to agree. I love it. Yes, and I was just thinking too. I was thinking, right? Not overthinking, hopefully. And that, not after your speech. And timelines. We have people call it past lives, and when you do have an experience of a past life, you get a feeling that you were there when Cleopatra was there, or so and so was there, or just that you were this or that or whatever. They're time zones. They're we can call them past lives, but in my experience, they're time zones, and we relive different things and we learn different things. And the idea was to go through different situations in order to learn, to understand, and to experience. So if we only had one time on Earth, and maybe some people do, but if we only had one time on Earth, if that were, and then all life stopped, which some people think that's the case, we'd never get there. There would be absolutely, that would be a trap. There would never be an opportunity for me to understand what the true laws are of the universe, the universal laws: love, peace, harmony, well-being, empathy, caring about others, and so on. I wouldn't have a chance. I mean, it's the people. It's our lives right now. What we're experiencing. And again, this is a Nancyism. You know how I am on those. Mm-hmm. And then it's that and my Nancyism says that we haven't been through this before. What we're doing right now is brand new. Never been done exactly the way we're going through. It hasn't been an easy, but it's going to get easier and easier and easier. For simply put, the way you just said, everything you just said. And that just means you were listening.
I listen intently when you talk.
Got me really laughing, not laughing like laughing, but very proud of you. I'm good. So I'm not trying to just make you feel good. I'm just saying I'm glad to hear you say these things because you're right on track here.
Yeah, it's you always. I get the lesson from you, and then I chew on it, and then I read the notes, and I meditate on it, and then I do nothing. I get into the stillness, and then I pray to understand it. And I like the other day you said, I learned my lessons really good. I'm very good at learning my lessons, and I've been using that one a lot, and that's been really fun too.
And everybody that are listening to your broadcast, and everyone they have every chance to do everything you just mentioned. And yes. It's inside them. They don't have to go anywhere. They don't have to pay any money to do it. They don't have to really do anything. What we do need to do is go inside, understand that everything we need, the peace, the harmony, the happiness, and that's like, when someone passes, it's unhappiness that goes along with it a lot of times. Happiness is elixir. It's inside. It's in the heart chakra. It's not because someone did or didn't do. Unhappiness is not because someone did or didn't do. It's the lack of that elixir, and the elixir is a choice.
Yeah.
It's basically a choice. And sometimes it'll happen automatically. Something stimulates it, and it brings peace and harmony. It could be music. It could be a lot of different things. But it is an elixir. It's a chemical that, in a vibration chemical kind of thing, where it's inside of us. And if you choose to suffer, you can have the sadness. If you choose to overcome this, then you'll have a happier, you'll get there. Everyone can get there. Everybody. And we've done the breath thing. We've talked about the breath. We talked about divine being in the breath.
Right.
On, and that's and the people you were talking, other people that have been listening to you, they're practicing it and they're finding it works.
I know, it's really really nice.
It works. It's amazing that there are things that we can do just because we make the choice to be happy, or just make me have a choice to do and be fruitful. I want to do things that make me happy. I want to do things that make me successful. I want to be and comfortable. And if you don't know how to do it, you can always go inside and ask, and you'll be shown, you'll be told.
Right.
It's all inside of you. It's inside of everybody. And it's not prejudice. It's not, everybody's breathing. If the divine is in the breath, truly in the breath, it doesn't matter. Everyone here breathes. And we're talking about, the passing and the leaving this planet. Animals are doing that. I mean, people are really love their animals, and they, it's like another kind of death, kind of, leaving body kind of thing, and it's very real. I mean, people are very strong and attached to the animals because of their unconditional love and their all the different things that the animal kingdom is. So, if you want, life on this planet is both. It's both leaving and coming, leaving and coming. I mean, if you eat an apple, it had to grow from a tree. Everything has its day.
Yeah.
And so the idea is to make the most of it.
Absolutely. And I think, when it comes to pets, they're with us every day. They're with us when we are not showered, when we feel our best, when we don't feel our best, when we go through pain, when we're lonely, when we're angry, when we're sad, when we're all the gamut of everything, of however many years that pet is with us. And sometimes it's pretty substantial, 20 years, 15 years, that pet is there. My dog sleeps with me every night. I eat breakfast with her every morning. We have dinner together all the time. Like, we go for walks. She comes on every hiking trip that I go on. She goes to, more than half of the shows that I go to. She's just with so many different things. She's a main character in my reality until the day she's not. And prior to her, it was my cat that I had for 15 years who did similar things with me that she does. And, they're such a fixture of love and comfort, and they're happy to see us. And, we're happy to see them. Like the other day, Lucy loves leaves. And now that it's fall in New York, we have leaves all over the yard. I open the front door and she blazes out. She doesn't even touch the stairs. She just ejects from the floor of the house over the steps of the front of the house and into the yard so she can roll around in the leaves. And she smiles the whole time. If it's chilly out and she's wearing a sweater, the entire sweater has leaves stuck to it. She could care less. She's in the ultimate state of bliss and joy. And this is what I get to watch while I have coffee in the morning. So, like, her joy sets the tone for my day, because she's just happy. She's not bothered by anything. She's not thinking about whatever kind of, she's not thinking about money or if somebody needs something from her or nothing. She's just in the place of bliss. And that's, I think, aside from unconditional love and comfort that pets give, they set the tone for a lot of happiness. And if we don't establish happiness within ourselves, they can be the substitute, the thing that we fill the void that we think we might have with them. So it's really important, I think, for us to be happy, to find what makes us light up and be happy, and then to do it in conjunction to your partners, your parents, your children, your pets, and everything else. And if you can incorporate your pets into that, you'll just love them even more.
Teresa, we've been talking a lot about people here and how they feel about the transition, but there's something to be said for the ones that have passed.
Yeah, I agree.
And not, because we think that if they're gone, they don't hear, they don't experience, and so on. So I'm very aware of, and I think there are others that are very aware that how people feel on the other side. And if they're, if something hasn't been resolved, it bothers them too. It hurts. When you first pass, you stay sort of you can stay fairly close to earth and to the people around you that were around you and so on. So I think we have to pay, if the greatest gift I can give, like the greatest gift I did give to the people that have passed, is I celebrate them. I'm thankful to them for everything they've done, be it good, bad, right or wrong, by someone else's standards. To me, I learned from it. There's something good that came from it. I look for the lessons and so on. But it's very important that we, just because someone passes on doesn't mean they don't hear, they don't feel, and they don't have experiences, because they do. They do, very much so. So if you really love someone, and I think that a lot of people are working on unconditional love and so on, then it'll be easy enough for you to have fond memories and fond things to think about. But if somebody had a situation where it wasn't quite as comfortable for them, then sometimes you have to go and get help and work through that situation, whether they're here or they're not.
So what happens for?
It depends on what happened there, and it depends on forgiveness is going to be pretty major there, and being unconditional in the love and forgiveness, and understanding that everybody's came here and we all have lessons. We've all in the middle of learning how to do things and tolerate things and not do things and so forth. And timelines will influence it. A lot of times it'll be an influence, but I still have a choice. Every time I take a breath, I have a choice.
Right. So what happens when our loved ones cross over? I know that it's such a variety of experiences. I mean, one of the there's a two-part question here. Is there a general experience that souls have when they cross over? That's question one. And two, one of the questions was about suicide. That, is it, if the person has an idea that when they take their own life, they're going to be in peace, do they go to peace? Or is there, if they have a conflicting belief, will that come into play? Because I don't believe people who do that go to a negative place, but I do think that they have a review, like, why did that happen? Or unless they have bliss, if they believe that they were going to be in bliss after they did it, they're just going to go right into the bliss because that's what their belief system is, right?
Believing is believing, knowing is knowing. And just because you believe something doesn't make it accurate. I'm sorry, it just doesn't.
Right.
So I don't think you can just take everyone. There's people who basically make a decision not to be here because of illnesses, and they take medicine. They have a program. It's a plan, kind of leaving.
Right.
In an old day, the days where everything was in a higher level, you might say you're laying down your body. They're very proficient people, very high level people, spiritual people that used to just lie down their body was used and appreciated, and then it was time, they didn't need it anymore, so they just lay it down. But I think again, suicide, I think it definitely depends on, and the same thing, how are they going to feel when they get on the other side? It's going to have a lot to do with how they felt as they were leaving.
Right.
So, and there is, there's a lot of people think, well, you go straight to heaven. Explain to me what heaven is. We have heaven, fifth dimension is heaven here. It's grace, it's love, peace, harmony, do unto others, being loved, loving others, and so on. So it's a dimension. There's many dimensions in our universe, and there's many places in our universe. I think that if we're going through, you've heard me say this before, I believe we're going through a photon belt, and on the other side is just love. So, it's not going to have the same, I think it's trying to lift people to a higher level. And I don't think that necessarily stops because someone committed suicide or because they didn't do well here as far as integrating well with everything and understanding everything and so on. So, people call it karma, all right? I mean, it was well known in the Buddha line, karma. But I don't see how karma could possibly exist in what's coming up, because you can't have the past, which is karma, and the now in the same moment.
Yeah.
And I think it's trying to get people in the now where all the positive energy is, all the forgiveness is, all the peace and harmony, the knowledge and knowing and so on. And you can do that here, or you can do it on the other side. So I don't see separation as much as a lot of people do when it comes to this kind of thing.
Do you?
I don't see on the other side being separated necessarily from where I am or what I'm doing. Yeah. Everybody. Yeah. So, if you have separation, you're going to have fear, you're going to have confusion, and you're going to have doubt. And none of that's in alignment in my mind.
Agreed. One of the questions here is, if we have a loved one that is making a transition, what can we do to help them?
My favorite thing, one of my things, I don't do it. I mean, I do it. You have to do it sincerely in my mind, to do this, but I just tell them how wonderful they are. I remember Steve's aunt, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
His aunt was in she was supposed to be passing, and she was in rehab. And I went in, I talked to her, and I said, Steve told me so many stories about how you were with your sister, when she went through hard times. You used to bring food to Steve, and when he was alone, and you did this, and look at you did that, and, you were, you were just so comforting, or you can, say whatever's in your heart. You don't have to do something like that, but just say what's in your heart.
Yeah.
And yes, and many people need permission to leave. They're afraid if they leave, someone's going to be in harm's way, or they're going to be so upset. They need to hear from the person that they love that much. They need to hear that person say, "It's okay for you to leave now. You can leave. You can leave." And
I was just going to say that.
Job, and you can leave. You can leave when you.
Yeah, letting them go without guilt, or letting them know that I'm going to be okay if you go.
Peace and harmony. Peace and harmony is the medicine that everybody needs.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
No matter if you're on this side of it or you're on the other side of it. Either way, it's pretty frequency. The frequency, everything is frequency. So when you're on the other side, you have a frequency. When you're on this side, you have a frequency. You can have the same frequency, somewhat, sometimes. But most of the time, people have different frequencies here. We're in a different level. But it doesn't mean that love is the only answer. Love is the only answer. Love is the only answer. It's the only answer I know. And it would be a waste of my time, not only to mention it, but it would be a waste of my time to not try to achieve it. Because there's nothing else in this age of Aquarius that's going to work.
That's right. I say that to myself a lot of the time. Is like I may not know how to get somewhere or what to do, but I know I may not have all the pieces to the puzzle, but what I know is that prayer is the thing that will get me there, and love is the answer. So I have a majority of what I need to know in order to navigate through whatever arises in my life, so long as I have those pieces.
And there's others that you can go to that can help you too, because the higher level is unlimited. You can have your drop of the rain, and know your knowledge, and that knowledge, that raindrop can be absolutely incredible, or you can have the whole ocean.
That's right.
You can have access to the whole ocean, and that's what it takes when you have death involved, or I'm calling it death, transition involved. When you have people, going through all kinds of different reasons and hardships and not hardships, and passing easy and not easy and all this other stuff. And there's so many different variations right now because there's so many people leaving in so many different reasons and ways.
Right.
But, the one thing that is really important is that we keep a highest level possible with ourselves, and our breath is very important, and the time is limited, so making most of it. But this is natural stuff. I mean, people ask me, you've had all this stuff going on, how do you handle it? What choice did I have? I had a choice, and that is, for me, I'm going to celebrate them. I might have to work to get there, but I will celebrate them, or at least go neutral and be me, be peaceful, and let them just take it as a lesson. Or a lot of people have people that didn't do a good job, maybe, and from another person's perspective here, they get angry about different things and they do different things. And on the other side, I'm sure if some of them saw the things that were happening with the people after they passed, they wouldn't like it either. But that's still lower level. And it's not, you've heard me say, and you said it tonight, so I know you heard it. You cannot light a candle with a dead candle.
Yeah.
Negativity is not going to work. Negativity will not solve any of the negativities, no matter you're here or you're on the other side. It will not solve any of the negative will not solve negativity. So if you don't want to suffer and you don't want to, go through suffering, then you got a choice.
It's true. I have, you and I both know a lot of people who are in the mediumship psychic space. And Thanksgiving last year, another dad story. We're hanging out, my stepdad, my sister, and I, and we're talking about family and different people. And maybe like a week later, I go and I meet my friend, and she works as a psychic, and she's very, very good. And I'm sitting with her at Starbucks drinking coffee, and as we're sitting across from each other, her eyes get very wide, and she starts scrunching down in her chair. And I'm like, "Are you okay? Like, are you like, what's wrong with you?" And she's like, "You have so many family members that have crossed over, and they are all around you, and each one of them wants to come in and give you messages." And she starts describing all the people that she's seeing, and they were all the people that we mentioned over Thanksgiving. And I thought it was like so, like, wow, it's such an interesting thing. I was like, each one of them heard their name be dropped, and then a week later they show up, all of them together in like a brood. And I was like, oh wow, like that was so significant to me, because it showed me how so many of them were still in earshot, and then coming to her and showing themselves to her. And some of them I knew were around for my own gifts, and then other ones were there that came through to her much clearer. And she was just going through, the messages that each one of them stepped forward to provide. It was really beautiful.
Well, it's the same space, it's just different vibration.
Yeah.
Higher, it's just a different vibration. So, I mean, everybody's everywhere. If they're not here, they're somewhere else, but everybody's everywhere. And, the people that you mentioned earlier, that are finding themselves and they're happy and they're doing really well and so on, they're going to have a lot easier time handling a lot of anything that happens than someone who's hasn't quite taken that choice to be happier, or to find the answers, or to be getting help if they need spiritual help, or if they need help in whatever direction they need it. Or want it.
That's true. Another big lesson I learned from going through this experience firsthand is attachment and detachment. Because when you love your family, nobody wants to see anybody that they love in pain or to suffer, but everybody also is entitled to their independent choice. So for my first reaction with my mom crossing over, or my stepmom crossing over, was, I'm going to go meditate and clear my mind and raise my vibration as much as possible, so it's easier for me to connect to them, and I'll feel better about having the experience when I connect to them, because then I'll still feel the proximity, or I'll still feel the togetherness. Not every relative I had chose to respond in that way, and they're entitled to do it, but years later they're still negotiating different experiences. And I think it's interesting, to see that. And there was a point of separation. Listen, you're going to deal with this how you want to deal with this, and I'm going to deal with this how I want to deal with this. And as long as we have respect for each other for the ways we're going to deal with it, I hold space for you and you hold space for me. And then
that was a lot of talking.
I must have been thinking a lot.
Too much.
Too much.
Too complicated.
Too much. Okay. Well, I mean, for me, it worked. I understand it's too much. But it like, seeing, certain members of my family be very sad and be sad for years made me feel like I had to create a place of respect for them, but I didn't want to take on, if you're going to choose to suffer, that's not my choice, but I love you anyway, that sort of thing. And it taught me how to be more independent, that I could love
Well,
them.
first of all, I don't think you should be judging it.
No, not judge it, just observe it.
That's the way it sounded.
That it sounds judgmental?
Yeah.
I'm really just trying to convey that everybody makes choices for how they deal with it, and that some people are going to make different choices than you.
And stop right there.
Okay. Right there.
You're right. People have different choices, do different things, and so on.
Well,
it's not a matter of my thinking it's good, bad, right, or wrong, or anything. It either works or it doesn't, but that's it.
Right. Well, to me, it was like I was always so close to my family, and there was like a group mind that we had. And when the death,
I'm sorry.
What do you mean you're sorry?
I'm sorry that you had a group mind.
Oh. Well, it was an old way of doing things, but one of the
we're getting off track here.
Okay. Really what I was just trying to hold space for was that standing on your own, in your own alignment, helps you to navigate when other relatives are having their own personal experience, and for you to be able to love them without hurting with them or hurting for them. That standing in your own space of love and just holding space for them is a gift that you give to yourself and to them. Does that sound better? Less words?
No.
I'll work on it.
You're fine. I'm just teasing a little bit, but yeah, we've been saying that all along, so yeah.
Before we wrap it up for tonight, what do you think is important for our audience members to know about the individuals who cross over? Because you had said,
it's part of life. It's part of life. We come, we breathe, we experience, and we leave. There's nothing more to say.
Right.
And how we leave can be planned. It can be. I don't think there's very little that's not part of the plan. And it is what it is. It either teaches me, or it teaches someone else, or it teaches whatever. It's an experience, here on Earth. But it's life.
Right.
If I'm not here, I'm somewhere else.
That's right. That's true. There's a really good book. I don't know.
So what people what they experience is going to be what they choose. They're either going to come through this and learn and be, or or they're going to choose the other way and go through some suffering and then change, or they're going to stay suffering. Whatever they're going to do, it's their choice. But that breath is going to run out one of these days. So making the most of it is fine. And sometimes you got to go to a higher level to find out how to do that. I'm not saying it's automatically everyone's knowledge, but you better learn.
Yeah. For your own happiness and well-being.
Yeah. I think it's important not to suffer. I don't want to suffer anymore.
I don't either. I'm so glad that suffering's over. It doesn't even exist. I don't even see it. Never even heard the name before. I think that's all the questions are on our end. What happens when you cross over? What can we do to not feel pain? How do we restart the life? Perception.
I didn't say we wouldn't feel pain.
Well, the question was, how can we not feel pain? But you already answered it.
Okay.
And then what can we do to help them? We answered that question. Raise your vibration. To me, it was just meditating and asking my high self to I'm
going to say good night.
Oh, okay. just feel love. On that note, we're going to end on the feeling of love. And that concludes our episode of Psychic Zen 333 for tonight.
It's just that you did extremely well tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And as did you. And thank you, Jennifer, for being part of this with us.
I really loved being here. Thank you.
Oh,
It came at an appropriate time for me.
yeah.
And the only reason I said that is no matter how many ways we cut the cake here, it's going to be a hard subject.
Yeah, I understand that.
And it's always choices, different choices for different reasons. And then you have more than one person, and it's always going to have it's going to take something that's going to take a little bit of effort, a lot of effort, and it's one of the most difficult things.
Very unique. And it can't be generalized.
It can't be generalized. It's unique, and it's going to be each person differently, and so on. This is one of the hardest subjects we've talked about. This broadcast has been one of the harder ones because there's no easy answer.
None at all.
Easy answers are change. Do the change. It's up to each person to make that change, to make that decision. So
it's hands down.
That's the only reason why I said it. We don't need to keep going around and around and around about it, but
yeah,
this is not easy. It's if I'm not here, I'm somewhere else, and if I'm somewhere else, that means I'm doing something else, and if I'm here, then I've got something to do here, and make the most of it.
Nancy, have we gone into the low fourth yet, or because in the photon,
in the low fourth with the chatter, but we're in the fourth dimension, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. On the Earth moving through the photon belt, where we jumped out a third?
To the unseen, yes.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to clarify. Okay, well, this was a marvelous time over a hard subject, but one that definitely merits having the discussion about. If anybody's having, an experience and they need to talk, I have Nancy's number and you can have my number and we'll all talk about it in a powwow. And, lots of love to everybody out there. No matter what you're going through, go within and be happy. And we love you.
Be at peace. All right. Good night.
Good night. We love you, everyone. We'll see you next Wednesday.